Next time, save yourself the headache and the repair bill and throw those flushable wipes in the trash.
What? Oh my... Tammy, do you see how much this is gonna cost us?
Don't feed the clog monster. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it.
I refuse to grow old. I'm interested in a very active life, and in order to do that, I get out and engage with other people. It's not all about the competition. It's about the social aspect of it, and it's fun. You don't have to be an athlete. You can just come and have a good time and enjoy what you're doing. I love every minute of it. My favorite quote is, "Can't, never could." You have to at least try something.
So you have now completed your emergency plan for your family. How about a plan for this family member? Protect your pets during a disaster by including them in your family's emergency plan. Start by making your pet a disaster kit. Put all paperwork into a large Ziploc bag, including a picture of you and your pet, your contact information, vaccination information, and special care instructions. In addition, you should pack certain items to help your pet during the emergency. A 7-day supply of food with bowls, a travel crate, and your pet's favorite toy. Remember, shelters are the place of last resort. Your plan should include being far away from the disaster's epicenter. But if you do find yourself at the shelter, know the rules. Once at the shelter, your pet will be placed in a designated animal section. This is for your pet's safety, as well as other shelter residents. Knowing the shelter rules helps everyone stay safe during an emergency. For more information about shelters, their location, rules, and how to get ready for a disaster, go to hcflgov.net/staysafe.
Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 14th, 2019 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your participation is encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. If you wish to address the Commission on a specific amendment, we ask that you please complete the appropriate public comment sign-in sheet at the back of the room. When addressing the Commission, please speak directly into the microphone and state your name and address. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meetings will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may speak once recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Powell. Here. Dix. Green. Joseph.
Here.
Kress.
Here.
Marino.
Here.
Willman. Here. Thrower.
Here.
Wilds.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Dowdy.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We're going to begin our meeting. We have had a request to move Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1906 up to the front. So we will start with that one, and then we'll go back to item number 2.
Good evening, Commissioners. Will Augustine, Planning Commission staff. The first item before you is Hillsborough County's Comprehensive Plan 1906. (1906) is located in north central Hillsborough County along Highway 92, just west of Plant City. The subject site is outside of the urban service area. The subject site is a privately initiated map amendment in north central Hillsborough County, approximately 3.4 acres in size. The subject property is south of the intersection of Lynn Oak Circle and Highway 92. Interstate 4 is to the north of Highway 92, and Lake Tonawanda is to the north of I-4. West of the Mangoes, it is west of the Mango-Seffner area. The site is in Dover. McIntosh Road is approximately a mile to the west, and Branch Forbes Road is approximately 2 miles to the east. The subject site is in the rural service area. The site has an adopted Residential 1 land use classification. The predominant land uses in the area are Residential 1 and Residential 2. The area south of Highway 92 is predominantly Residential 1. The land uses between Interstate 4 and Highway 92 are mostly represented by Residential 2 and Suburban Mixed Use 6. Residential 4 can be found approximately 1 mile to the west on both sides of Highway 92. The applicant is requesting a Suburban Mixed Use 6 land use classification change in order to allow a currently operating commercial engine repair shop. The currently adopted land use classification of Residential 1 allows a maximum of 3 dwelling units on the 3.4 acre site. With a land use change to Suburban Mixed Use 6, the subject site would have a potential build-out of up to 18 dwelling units. SMU 6 allows consideration of light industrial uses and other commercial intensive uses not allowed under the Residential 1 category. Non-residential uses must meet locational criteria. However, this site does not meet locational criteria. This photograph is a view showing Highway 92 to the east at the subject property's entrance. This is a view looking down Highway 92 to the west at the subject property's entrance. This photograph is a view north from the subject property entrance. This is a view along Highway 92 to the southeast of the subject property entrance. This is a view from Highway 92 to the south of the subject property entrance. And here is a photograph of the view looking south towards showing the commercial engine repair shop on the property. This is a view looking southeast showing the commercial engine repair shop on the property. This is a photograph of a view looking southeast showing the residential home on the property. After distribution for local agency review, no objections were received. Planning Commission staff have determined that the request for a land use change to Suburban Mixed Use 6 is not consistent with the following language, policies, and objective from the county's future land use element, which addresses the rural area. Objective 4 of the future land use element further clarifies that the intent of the rural area is to provide long-term land-intensive agricultural uses in large lot, low-density rural residential uses. Policy 4.1 designates rural area densities on the future land use map as being no higher than 1 dwelling unit or 1 dwelling use per 5 acres. Policy 30.6 recognizes that agriculture and agricultural support uses are the preferred uses in the rural area. The rural area is characterized by land uses that typically have densities of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres or less intense designations. There is no provision supporting any new extensions of public water or sanitary sewer service into the rural area. The purpose of the rural growth management strategy is to 1, control urban sprawl, 2, create a distinct forms between long-range urban and rural communities, and 3, define those urban communities using an urban service area that establishes the boundary of urban growth and preserves the rural character. Finally, the Planning Commission staff finds Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1906 inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and recommends that this finding be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on this item?
I'm Pamela Jo Hatley. My address is 14517 North 18th Street in Tampa. I represent Mr. W.C. Smith, who is the property owner. Mr. Smith is a large engine mechanic, and it has been his dream all his life to have a property with his shop and his home on the same property. So in 2017, he found 2 parcels in East Highway 92 in Dover, and he went and met with a zoning counselor in Hillsborough County. And from that conversation with the zoning counselor, it was his understanding that if he joined those 2 parcels together in a certified parcel process, that he could have both his home and his shop on the same property. So Mr. Smith bought that property, and he invested in building his home there and building his shop there, and he opened his business. Today, he has a thriving business on his property, and he enjoys living on the same property where his business is located. Code enforcement subsequently visited Mr. Smith and issued a notice of violation. So Mr. Smith is here tonight seeking after-the-fact approval. If he is unable to get approval, he will have to close his business, sell his property, and move away. Mr. Smith visited his neighbors to see if anybody had objections to his use on his property. As a result of that, he is here tonight with 29 letters of support from neighbors on his north, south, east, and west in support of this use, who say that this doesn't bother them at all. And there are some people in the audience tonight who will put their names in the record as well, and I'd like to submit these to the record. We recognize a staff report recommends a finding of inconsistency. We believe that there are facts on the ground in the development of this property and in the development of this community and the surrounding uses. And if those facts were considered properly, they would support a finding of consistency. Mr. Bob Hunter is here tonight as an expert witness representing Mr. Smith. And I'd like to put his credentials into the record. His credentials are well known here. I recognize that, but for the record, Mr. Hunter has bachelor's and master's degree in architecture. He has decades of experience in planning, and as the director of planning in local governments, he's the former executive director of this agency. He's former president of the American Planning Association and a member and fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planners. Mr. Hunter.
Good evening. As Pamela said, my name is Bob Hunter. I live at 4111 Kipling Avenue, Plant City, Florida, 33566. She's going to distribute 9 pages, 8 of which are from your staff's report, 9 of which we have made an addition to. One copy for each of you. I'd like to say that Mr. Smith has gone out and beat the bushes, and all that you see in the audience are those that are here in support of his project. That's not true. They're here for other plan amendments that you'll be hearing later. But he does have some people here that, as Pamela said, do support his project. As Pamela's doing, we're distributing 9 pages of a handout from your staff's 80-page report as it relates to Mr. Smith's 3.4 acre plan amendment for SMU 6. I'll be asking you to refer to some of the pages that we gave you. The pages are numbered, so it'll be easy to follow, and I'll be flipping back and forth, but it'll be easy to follow. Mr. Smith has a very unique situation, and I think you've probably heard that from a lot of applicants where the staff is finding a recommendation of inconsistency. But his is truly unique, and I'd like for you to hear me out. As Pamela said, he bought the property, he built his residence, and is conducting his large truck engine repair shop there, and has been doing so for a number of years. Something that I'd like to point out to you that you didn't see in the staff report, and I'm not casting aspersions upon it, but it's hard to show this in the pictures. Mr. Smith, if you look on page 3, is out of sight of those who drive 92. Page 3, I'm looking at the wrong one. I hope you're not seeing that. Page 3, the top of the photograph is that Will showed you, shows the entrance to his property on the right, and the bottom photograph shows the entrance to his property on the left. On page 6 of the handout, Will showed you that one also. He begins his activities nearly 400 feet down from the entrance to his property on Highway 92. What I found very difficult to show you was that his property drops nearly 30 feet from Highway 92 downward in elevation. You can barely see it if you're looking at it as you take a quick right or left when you drive 92 to see what's down there. The last page of our handout, page 9, shows on the left, as he did, as Will showed you, the house that Mr. Smith built for him and his wife. Mr. Smith operates his large truck engine repair shop. He's sole proprietor, and he has one employee. Last year, as your staff report reflects, he was cited as non-compliant for land use and zoning. I want to say this again. He was cited for non-compliant for land use and zoning. If he doesn't get this, he will be out of business. His business is out of sight of nearly everyone who drives 92. And that's what's brought us to this point. Mr. Smith's uniqueness of sight. We had to seek an SMU 6 land use category in order for Mr. Smith to continue his truck engine repair shop. The SMU 6 was the lowest impact land use category we could find to accommodate his existing use. While SMU 6 does allow, as per Will Augustine's presentation, up to a maximum of 18 residential units, they won't fit on that site. And as the staff report flex, if those 18 units were crammed onto it, which they can't fit, they would be generating 536 average daily vehicle trips. That can't happen on that site. At the most right now, probably Mr. Smith generates 10 to maybe 20 vehicle trips per day from his site. That is a large difference from the possibilities of the SMU 6 and 18 dwelling units. Because of the unique topography of the site, if you look at page 6, the current use is probably the best use and most productive, except for a single-family house. I put in most productive because of his business there. If you'd please refer to page 4. I'm sorry to keep jumping around, but these maps are important. The two maps. top photograph, existing land uses and typical development in the area. And the bottom photograph is the current future land uses. I know that doesn't make sense, but we planners like to use terms that confuse people. I think that came under when I was director, didn't it, Melissa? Anyway. Please carefully look at the lower map, current future land uses. You will see what appears to be a wet zone in the middle of that map, adjacent to his property. It is not what we know as a cypress bog. It is a stagnant piece of water adjacent to Mr. Smith's property. As I said earlier, his property drops some 30 feet from Highway 92 down to the back of his lot. I've walked the property, walked the adjacent properties, walked along Highway 92, Moores Lake Road, and the strawberries and back of his property. Mr. Smith's property and the pond parcel are anomalies. That is to say, something that deviates from the norm in this case. And in this case, all of the other properties and their elevations are high. They're not the exact height of Highway 92, but they're pretty close to it. I believe his property is a depression, it's a Great Depression, is a result of probably a borrow pit, maybe 40 years ago when they were doing road construction, because there's virtually no outlet to the stagnant water pond and on the surveyor's site, the flood zone in the back of the property back there. His property is not flat as one would perceive as you look at those maps that you're looking at. You don't perceive it there. It is not even with Highway 92, of which everyone would see all those trucks you think you're looking at. They don't see those when they drive by. The only people that see his activity are those people immediately behind him and that property just to the east of him, and they have no objections to what he's doing. It is impossible to build the 18 residential units on his site. Point 3, if you stay on page 4 with me of the handout that you're looking at, existing land uses and typical development in the area, and then one below it, current future land use. Flip your eyes back and forth between those land uses, up and down. Please note the mixture of current land use that exists today and the potential current future land uses. I'm of the opinion, the professional opinion, that the current future land use map will never occur. It won't happen. Because if you look at the map above, entitled Existing Land Use and Typical Development in the Area, that's what's happening. It presently is not rural. It is mostly developed. Now I'd like to refer you to page 5. There is too much of a mixed use pattern, a transitioning that has been happening over, I'd say 20, 30 years, even before I got here nearly 30 years ago, of land use and zoning along Highway 92, north and south, east and west. As an example, there's a general RV development, a PD, having been approved a number of years ago, along with the locational criteria that was waived, for a huge, that's over 100+ acres of RV sales complex that not only sells RVs and services RVs and stores large numbers of RVs visibly from Highway 92 on the site, and soon to repair RVs with their only ingress and egress on Highway 92. And that is just a few hundred yards west of Mr. Smith's property. Another point west of Mr. Smith's property, I believe this is on page, map number 5. West of Mr. Smith's property has been zoned PD, where warehouses can be located. And just west of his property, of Moores Lake Road, is PD zoning. that is eligible for a convenience store and gas pumps. And a bit further west on Highway 92, on the south side, mind you, all of this is visible from Highway 92. And the traffic impacts Highway 92 much more than Mr. Smith's. Is an existing roofing company, an existing, well, fairly new, Volkswagen repair restoration shop that moved from the east side, probably a mile or two from where Mr. Smith is located, to the west side, a new Dollar General store, and a modular shed sales facility. This area and along Highway 92 will not remain rural, nor will it remain residential under the land use classification. Highway 92 is planned soon to be a 4-laned road, 2 lanes in each direction. That is not appropriate for single-family residential to be located upon. What is going to happen to Highway 92, north and south, in reality in this area? It is my opinion that it will continue to transition into mixed-use commercial, retail, light industrial, and business servicing not only the adjacent areas of south of 92, east and west, but more importantly, I want to say, and it needs to be recognized, servicing I-4, which is planned to be expanded further as our region grows and I-4 connection becomes more important. More than likely, the strawberry fields behind Mr. Smith's property and other properties in the area will become subdivisions as the market changes, and they will feed onto collector roads feeding onto Highway 92. I would note in Mr. Augustine's presentation there were no objections received concerning this application. Finally, respectfully, we request that you approve Mr. Smith's modest but limited plan amendment so that he can stay in business. He's out of sight, but he has a productive business for himself and then contributes to this community. HC CPA 19-06. As on the first page of our handout to you, from the FLU, Future Land Use Element, Objective 10, the development is suitable for the physical conditions of the land. That fits perfectly. I won't cover policy 11.1 that's in front of you, or Objective 12, which talks about service transportation facilities are in the area. They are, you know that. Objective 13, the development does not adversely impact environmentally sensitive areas. But again, so that Mr. Smith may stay in business with a land use that does not impact anyone, I ask that you find it consistent with the comprehensive plan because of its uniqueness of size and in location, a small established business, not impacting anyone and contributing to the growth of our community and specifically to the I-4 corridor. Thank you. Questions?
Actually, I'm going to take public comment first.
Thank you.
I do have Pamela Hatley. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, Bob Hunter. Yep. Any other public comment? Please state your name and address. And you have 3 minutes.
I'm Tim Young. I live at 13443 East US Highway 92, and I'm just in approval of what he's wanting to do.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Ricks. I live at 13443 East US Highway 92, and I also have no problem with his business.
Good evening. Nicholas Adams, 13515 Thonotosassa Road, and here in support of Mr. Smith.
Hey there, my name's Melissa Puff, and I'm at 13492, and I support Puff, P-O-F-F.
Okay, any other public comment? Would the applicant like to respond?
Pamela Jo Hatley. And once it comes up, this is a future land use map, and I just wanted to use this one because it goes further out in location and shows the future land use map from all the way from west of McIntosh Road to about Branch Forbes Road. And it illustrates well, I think, the commercial growth in that area. The pink color is all SMU 6. The blue is a public use. It's a high school and an elementary school, Bailey Elementary School. And so I think it illustrates, as Mr. Hunter was discussing, that the development in this area is not rural residential. It really is developing in a more suburban, mixed-use, and commercial way. General RV has had a huge impact, and the parcel just west of it, as he pointed out, has been approved for a PD to have an industrial business park. And see, one last point I wanted to make. Oh, I'm sorry. The staff report mentioned a request that was similar to this in 2008 that was denied, and I took a look at that parcel, and it's actually the parcel that is next to what used to be Bates Airstream. So the Airstream Ranch, and then just west of that. And that parcel today is still in Res 1. However, it is owned by the RV company that bought Bates RV. It is owned by that same RV company, and they are using that parcel today to store RVs. So that parcel is owned by that RV entity. It's not going to be a residential use. And as Mr. Hunter pointed out, this area is changing. It is changing in a more commercial way and a more mixed-use way and away from being rural residential. And for all those reasons, I think those are facts on the ground that need to be considered with this request and would support a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from commissioners?
I have one.
Commissioner Dix?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to address this to Mr. Hunter. I was noticing on your map that you have here on page 5 of your handout, that one, you've identified a number of other entities and landowners in the adjacent vicinity, most particularly General RV. Now, there's no legend on your map, but I took the time while you were talking to look at it on Google Earth. It appears that General RV and their entrance off of 92 is really less than 1,000 feet away. Is that about right?
750 feet. 750.
She reminded me it's 750 feet.
That's a little more exact.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
749.6.
Thousands close enough.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then there's another Bill's transmission that is probably another 250, 300
Just
feet thereafter.
the next lot over.
And in theory, that's all in the same business as your applicant, as your client applicant.
Yes.
Is that correct? So, I mean, if nothing else, what you're seeking to do seems consistent with the neighborhood. Do you know from your experience in working in this matter, did General RV have to have a map amendment when they begin breaking ground? Because they have the same designation of what you're seeking, I believe.
I know they're a PD. I don't know if they did, which was approved 8 years ago, I think. I can't answer you directly. I don't know that.
But what you're asking for is the same as what they have, even though they're larger. But they're larger,
Yes.
and they have expansion plans to expand even further south, close to 92.
Yeah, their PD would allow more than what my client is wanting to do.
Okay, I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Commissioner Willman?
Yes. What is the name of the business that's operating on the site right now?
Pardon me?
What is the name of the business operating on the site right now?
Oh, it's B&A Truck Repair.
Okay, and how long has it been operating under that name?
A little over a year.
A year? And it's the, what is the use? It's a heavy, commercial, is it a, describe the use again?
Tell your name.
My name is W.C. Smith. I'm the property owner. I live there on property. I rebuild diesel truck engines. That's the main focus of what I do. Generally speaking, 2 to 3 trucks a day, not every day, but generally is all that comes in or goes out.
And so what is the permitted use allowed now for zoning, or is that the issue that
Yes,
is in
ma'am.
question right now?
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's a single-family home
Yes, ma'am.
on the site, and that use is a permitted use. It was the other use that's in
Yes, ma'am.
question.
I bought 2 folios, and it was my understanding if I paid to join the 2 folios together to create one, I could build my shop and my home, work, and live on the same property. After I did so, 3 or 4 months later is when the code man, Mr. Sweeney, visited me and told me I was not zoned to do that. So I made another attempt at zoning and didn't get anywhere. So I was just trying to resolve the issue.
Okay, but the business has been there for 1 year?
A little over a year, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Dix or Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What other rezoning did you try to do that you just said that you indicated a minute ago?
I haven't. This is, when I hired Miss Hatley here, she's been kind of steamrolling what I need to do. I just tried to meet with different departments to see what I could do to resolve the issue to get into compliance.
Any other questions? No further questions? Someone like to, Commissioner Dix?
No,
Are
go
you
ahead.
making a
Yes, ma'am.
motion, or are you asking?
I was going to make a motion.
Commission, did you have a question?
More of a comment. Are we discussing now among
Well,
ourselves,
we
or?
don't have a
we do
motion
that
yet,
after the-
so I'll let you, okay. Commissioner Dix?
I would move, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that that we find HC CPA 1906, which proposes a future land use designation change from residential 1 to suburban mixed use 6, that we find it consistent with the future Hillsborough comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, specifically the consistency findings with Objective 10, Objective 12, and Policy 11.1, and then that we forward this recommendation onward.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dix, second by Commissioner Marino. Any further discussion?
Excuse me?
Yes.
I just have to hand out the school concurrency
Okay.
review, which was not provided in the report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll wait till we get that, but Commissioner Willman, you can ask your question.
Yes, I would just ask for clarification then on what the policies are that are in support of the finding, because we have lots of policies that the staff report provided, and I'm just, so only those first 3. I'm concerned about finding it consistent with those, based on those first 3 only.
And this is kind of what we alluded to earlier today. That's kind of the great thing about having a comprehensive plan, because in a comprehensive plan, you can find things that would be consistent or inconsistent, depending on which way you might like the issue to fall.
Commissioner Willman?
Yes, thank you. Then I would just rely on the staff report to provide additional policies that would better support the finding of inconsistency. I find that it seems to me that those policies finding inconsistency are stronger than the ones finding consistency.
Okay. Any, Commissioner Dowdy?
Yeah, I'd like to, perhaps for Melissa to answer, but just to ask a couple of questions. It appears that the future land use map and a lot of the other land uses that are similar to what the applicant is asking are basically on the north side of Highway 92. And the future land use of the single-family residential is on the south side of 92, but Mr. Hunter's exhibit on page 5 shows a PD for office warehouse, convenience store, Dollar General, et cetera, and I'm curious as to how, I guess, those particular land uses came into being. Were they, are they non-conforming, but what's the word I'm looking for? But just, I think you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe that for me?
Sure. So the SMU 6 that is along this portion of I-4 and 92 has been in existence since the plan was established. I recognized a number of historical zonings that had been in place prior to the comprehensive plan existing. And so the SMU 6 was made sort of a broad swath along that north side of the road. The residential 1 that's on the south side of the road, it does permit some level of commercial development. It's limited to the maximum intensity of the commercial general zoning district to ensure compatibility with the residential that is coming to the rear, to the further to the south. So typically that's based on locational criteria, indicating that commercial should be located at intersections of 2 major roadways. However, 92 certainly has a historical pattern of other non-residential uses. Some of them that are maybe more intense could be grandfathered in. I don't know and couldn't tell you on any precise use exactly its historical fact pattern, but I can tell you that the residential 1 does permit office uses, neighborhood commercial uses, commercial general uses to be considered. And so the issue at hand is that the use that the gentleman is doing on the property is more intensive than a commercial general zoning district would permit. That type of truck repair, I believe, requires a commercial intensive zoning district, and some of the staff from the county are here who might be able to help verify that. But I believe that's the issue, and our concern was, 1, perpetuating a strip commercial development pattern along a roadway, and also intensifying the land uses beyond what is permitted in the rural area. When we look at the land use category, we do not look just at the one end user. We look at all the range of uses that can be permitted in the SMU 6. That includes 6 units per acre of residential and everything up into light industrial uses. Because someday this gentleman may sell the property, and we have to contemplate, because we're looking long range at the future land use, all of those potential future land uses. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah, it kind of does, because I mean, while I can sympathize with the current position, it's almost, to me, when you look at the different land use thing, jumping the tracks, that it's the camel's nose under the tent in that light. So we've had this discussion many times over the time here, that we can't condition our approvals on a particular use or that sort of thing. So what I was kind of getting at with all the other stuff that's on the south side of US 92, if they're legal non-conforming uses, that means if they burn down, they can't put them back. There's one that appears to be a PD, which so there's another process to go through to get that sort of use approved. I just this is another one of those that guess gives me pause in proceeding from my perspective. So thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Dix.
Thank you. It would appear to me, however, is what I heard from the applicant, is that this request is the least intensive use, or that could be adopted to permit his current activity. In other words, it's not like we could say, okay, this is inconsistent, but if you did it this way, then we could find it consistent. And since it's the least taxing of the facilities to come up with this. And this is consistent with both the designation of the properties right across the street within 1,000 feet, 750 feet, I think he said, and the exact same type of business because they're doing mechanical work on large truck engines, essentially. It would seem to me that this whole neighborhood is in a flux of transition, and we're going to see more and more of that as it becomes even more of an RV megapolis out there. So again, I come back to finding a consistency on it.
Commissioner Marino?
I guess this is more of a question for staff, but if it wasn't truck repair and it was some sort of agricultural related repair, repairing irrigation systems or, something related to the facilitation of agriculture, agribusiness, would that change the type of land use he could seek? Is the fact that it is trucking rather than something related directly to agriculture that has caused us to get to this point?
Yes, there is a provision in the future land use element allowing for consideration of more intensive commercial uses in the rural area if they are agriculturally related. And I can find the policy if that would be helpful, but that is something that again, is aiming towards understanding that in the rural area, we're anticipating that there's going to be tractor repair, and we're anticipating there's going to be outdoor storage of feed and things like that, because that's consistent with the rural lifestyle and the rural pattern of development.
And just to follow up, I agree with the comments that my colleagues have made about future land use, but I kind of think of this as the gentleman essentially lives above the store, and that there doesn't seem as if there is an application in this case. So that's why I second the motion by Commissioner Dix.
Okay, Commissioner Willman?
Another question for staff. How does SMU 6 solve the problem if it allows neighborhood commercial? SMU 6 would allow heavy commercial?
It would, because it allows it allows light industrial uses. So that includes heavy commercial uses in the light industrial. Yeah, so it could allow any of the manufacturing zoning district.
Okay, well, I would still reiterate the fact that there are many comprehensive plan policies in the staff report that I feel better support a finding of inconsistency than the policies that would support a finding of consistency. And a lot of the things listed by the applicant are objectives and not policies. So I think we would need to really consider what it is that we are responsible for ruling on in terms of finding a consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for Melissa. You said that he would probably need more of like a CI zoning because of his being, is it just because he's like a commercial for 18-wheelers? Or, because I thought that with like repair shops and things like that, that was allowable use, the allowable usage was in, like for commercial general or even like some commercial neighborhood zonings, you could get some repair shops. So
I believe it's because it's motor repair, but I'm going to ask Matt Lewis from the county to come up and help me with the issue with the zoning.
Hello, Matt Lewis, Hillsborough County, Community and Infrastructure Planning. Could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you.
So my question is, my understanding is that from what was said earlier is that because he is repairing diesel trucks, like I assume for 18-wheelers or RVs, larger vehicles, that he would need a CI zoning traditionally.
Correct.
And that a CG zoning or a CN zoning wouldn't be, allowed because of the type of vehicle, I guess is my question, because I thought that like auto repair shops or like quick lube sort of, facilities, tire change places who do mechanical work, that those uses can be in a CG zone. So
yes, there are two categories of auto repair shops. There's smaller ones and major ones. And in looking at the use table, both of them are permitted in the CG zoning district, whereas, CI includes obviously the major repair like diesel repair and things like that. And this is just my read here. We don't have comments from our zoning section to say whether or not that is the case. But what I believe would be the case is because it has to meet neighborhood locational criteria to get those uses, and because the CI use is what they're looking at here, this would not be seen as a neighborhood scale commercial use. It'd be seen more as a regional thing, whereas something smaller like Jiffy Lube or something like that would be seen more as a regional or a neighborhood scale commercial use.
Right, but he's only just rebuilding engines, right? You're not like changing tires, doing oil changes or anything like that. You really have just one.
Right, it's specialized, but it's a more intense specialization than changing a tire.
All right, to me, it doesn't seem like that, but I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. The motion made by Commissioner Dix was to find Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-06 from residential 1 to SMU 6 on 3.46 acres, consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. So, all in favor of that motion, say aye. All opposed, say aye. Aye. Actually, let's do it by show of hands. All in favor, please raise your hands. So we got Commissioner Dix, Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Wilds, Commissioner Powell, and Commissioner Kress. So that is five in favor. All opposed? Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Joseph, Commissioner Thrower, and Commissioner Dowdy. So it's 5-4, motion passes. So we are going to move on to Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-03. Yeah, that's close.
Okay.
I was kind of on the fence, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
These three are going to be heard together.
Good evening, Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff. Today I'm presenting 3 plan amendments in the same general vicinity. So this first map is to kind of give you an introduction to the general area along Kingsway Road. Up here, this is Thonotosassa Lake, Kingsway Road, Thonotosassa Road, I-4 is to the south, Mango Road is to the west, so at any rate, I wanted to give you some sort of orientation. These are 3 separate applications, so they have to be considered separately. So I'm going to start with 1903. This site is on the west side of Kingsway Road. I've already described the general location. It is in the rural service area. And you can see here they're clustered together up here on the east side of Tampa area. Okay, 1903 is a privately initiated map amendment. It consists of 5 parcels. Totaling 109 acres. As you can see outlined in pink, the site is used for agricultural purposes, as is the surrounding area. It's predominantly crops and I understand hay, that type of thing. On the left-hand side, you see the adopted future land use map, and the site's currently designated agricultural rural 1 to 5 in the green color. The areas surrounding adjacent to the west is residential 1. Further to the west is residential 2 and agricultural estates 1 unit per 2.5 acres. To the north, south, and east, it's predominantly agricultural rural 1 to 5. The applicant's requesting a change to residential 1. And again, you can see it is adjacent to residential 1 to the west and then adjacent to agricultural rural 1 to 5 to the east, north, and south. The impact of this change would basically be an increase in the number of dwelling units from 21 units to 109 units. The site does not meet locational criteria, so non-residential uses would not be considered. This amendment was distributed for agency review. We did receive comments from the school district noting that Strawberry Crest High School currently doesn't have the capacity for the development potential that may be created by this proposal. In general, the other agencies had no objections. As the school board didn't have an objection, they just noted that at the time of development, concurrency review and other discussions would be necessary. Staff reviewed it for consistency and found that it was inconsistent with the rural area growth management strategy of the comprehensive plan. It also inconsistent with the rural area density plan that supports that strategy, which is, as Will pointed out earlier, it's 1 unit per 5 acres as a minimum density, the retention of agricultural uses and open space, and also the discouragement of the extension of water and sewer. It's inconsistent with our policies that deal with neighborhood protection and compatibility, as this area is predominantly agriculture, and they're proposing a suburban scale residential subdivision style density. The Thonotodassa community plan encompasses this area, and it calls for the protection of the rural character of the planning area and seeks to discourage the encroachment on the agricultural community and to retain open space. Based on these findings, staff recommends that CPA 1903 be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future of Hillsborough's comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. I'm happy to answer your questions, or if you'd like, I can go through all three because they're all adjacent to each other, and then answer questions at that time. It's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, you can go through the others. If
Okay,
that,
I'll be brief because it's all fairly similar.
when we vote, we'll vote on them individually, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next one is 1904. This site is on the east side of Kingsway Road in the same general vicinity. It's also in the rural service area, and it's much larger in size. The site is 315 acres. It consists of 15 parcels. Again, it's privately initiated and predominantly used for agricultural purposes. Such as the First Amendment, it's designated Agricultural Rural 1 to 5, and it proposes a change to Residential 1. This site's slightly different, being on the east side of the road. It's predominantly surrounded by Agricultural Rural 1 to 5. The impact, again, would be the increase of the number of units from 63 to 215 units. It too does not meet locational criteria. This site was distributed. The school district made the same comment regarding the high school in the area and the capacity issues. This site also, EPC noted that this site had significant wetlands on the eastern portion of the site that would need to be addressed. Overall, none of the agencies had any objections. Staff reviewed it for consistency and found it inconsistent based on those policies of 1903. Based on this, Planning Commission staff recommended that 1904 be found inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And finally, 1905, we're going back to the west side of Kingsway Road. Let's go forward a little bit. This is the smallest of the three. It's 24.9 acres. It's one parcel. And it's adjacent to 1903, just to the north, closer to Thinidisassa Road. Again, it's designated agricultural rural 1 to 5, and the applicant's proposing residential 1. The impact would be to increase the dwelling units from 4 to 24 units. It does not meet locational criteria. Again, the school district had this comment that Strawberry Crest High School currently doesn't have capacity. No other objections were issued. And staff found it inconsistent based on the same policies addressed in 1903 and 1904. Based on these findings, staff found CPA 1905 to be inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future of Hillsborough's comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the applicant want to speak on this item?
Good evening. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. First of all, I'd like to thank your Planning Commission staff very much for all the work that's gone into this. We've been at this for most of a year now, and they've been nothing but helpful along the way. These amendments, as you know, were ultimately not supported by staff, and I'd like to address some of the points that we differ on. I'll start with the Thinidisassa Community Plan. The Thinidisassa Community Plan is dated. I think we can all agree, hopefully, on that. It became effective March 2004. That was several different worlds ago in Hillsborough County. However, even in that document, codified when Hillsborough County's population was 1.1 million versus the 1.43 million it is today, 1 acre lots were recognized as the minimum standard of development within Thinidisassa, as stipulated within the comprehensive plan strategies. The plan states, require minimum lot sizes of 1 acre for residential development within the residential 1, agricultural estate, and agricultural rural future land use categories. That same plan stresses the importance of preserving the rural nature of the community. Per the Hillsborough County Land Development Code, Part 12.01, which is definitions, a future land use of R1 is considered rural for legal noticing purposes. That is, if I were to notice a property for rezoning within a future land use of R1, I would have to use the expanded radius of notice based on a rural development. I know and acknowledge that the LDC is not a guiding document here, but I strongly encourage that it be considered. Out in your lobby here, there's a reference guide available regarding future land uses. For reference purposes only, it stipulates. And in it, R1, the request today, is defined as farms, ranches, residential, rural offices, multi-purposes. 1 acre lots are by definition rural. This leads to my second point, which is the preservation of the Thinidisassa area as rural and the purported expansion of the urban service area, which is obliquely referenced in the staff report. We're not expanding the urban service area. This project will not connect to public water, will not connect to public sewer. Either one would be illegal and, for the purpose of this project, impractical. And as to the idea that 1 acre lots would contribute to a pattern of urban sprawl, I again beg to differ. Urban sprawl is what's happening in South County, where 40 and 50 lots are the norm. I myself have even helped develop some 35-foot lots. We're asking for 1 acre lots. There's an objection that this project, if approved, cannot be sustained by the current infrastructure, specifically transportation. I've seen the roads out there. I know that this point has merit. Of course it can't be sustained and never would or could be developed without a sound county-approved plan reviewed by professional engineers to bring all the required infrastructure up to par at the sole cost and expense of the developer. That cost will be massive, but the resulting improvements will be a boon to the entire area. I know that site development, as I just spoke to, is not a planning commission issue, but I think it needs to be taken into account. We're not here asking for zoning or subdivision approval. We're asking here to permission to move forward with a sound and competent plan for reasons previously stated that satisfy the intent of a rural community. There's also an objection to the timing or ripeness of this project, in that maybe it goes too far or leapfrogs from denser developments to the east or west and is not consistent with the future land uses. I think that's a non sequitur and a non-starter. I'd like to introduce Mr. Jimmy Dunn, who's one of the principals of the development, who's going to show you some maps that detail the surrounding densities as they are today. I think you're going to be over there.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jimmy Dunn, June Engineering Consultants, 32 West Plant Street, Winter Garden, Florida, 34787. Thank you for putting this up on the screen. I just kind of wanted to give you a brief synopsis of how we arrived at where we are today. And again, thank planning staff for the year that we've worked together working on this particular group of properties. But we are the current owners of these properties here. I'll jump back to the mic in just a second. Yep, okay, here we go. Thank you. There we go. All right. So we're the current owner of this group of properties here. This board, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, saw this 40 acres here, which part of the Thonosassa Community Plan, we received approval for 1 acre lots. Some of the ownership of these parcels out here are the same owners of the parcels that were here. There's some of the original families, the Sultan Fuss, Barnett, James, and Folsom families that have been around the Thonosassa for many, many decades. And so as we looked at this area and looking at the Thonosassa Community Plan, I think this map tells a great story. Everything you see here outlined in blue is future land use 1 acre lots. Everything in red are the 3 parcels we're discussing this evening. So when you start looking at it, and I always don't like to use the cliche, the hole in the donut, but all the properties, including one of the parcels, R1 is already part of it, and we moved that forward through the Board of County Commissioners about a month ago for 1 acre lots. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. Thank you.
Again, Commissioners, as to the idea of compatibility, this isn't Brandon, it's not Plant City, and we're not asking for that kind of development. 1 acre lots would be absolutely laughable in those areas where 4,800 square foot lots are common. 9 of those would fit in 1 acre. My last point I'd like to leave you with this is allowing this plan amendment would actually preserve the rural standard of development in a way that's really not apparent today, because the urban service line will move in the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. We don't know, but it will have to move. And a development with 1 acre lots may suddenly look like an enclave of estates compared to what could be coming down the pipeline. Our county is massively growing. And we think this is a way to work with the existing community plan, preserve a rural intent with 1 acre lots, and hopefully it makes sense. With that, thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Actually, we're going to take public comment first. We're going to take, when I call you, the individuals up, we're taking public comment on 1903, 1904, and 1905. If you're speaking on one specific item, please state that, but if it applies to all of them, you're welcome to. Please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Frank Sansis, and I'm at 3001 North Kingsway Road in Thonosassa, 33594. And this is our legal representation that you've heard from already, and she's going to now present our position.
I'm Pamela Jo Hatley, 14517 North 18th Street. It's awkward to be advocating for someone and opposing someone in the same night, but this is a very, very, very different place, a very different location. I represent the Pacific Agriculture Research Corporation, and I'd like to just, if I could. putting a statement into the record. Pacific Agriculture Research Corporation, or PARC, owns land that is basically surrounded by these three map amendment requests. It is an established research institution that makes significant contributions to Florida's economy. It works on citrus greening research and also works in conjunction with the Florida Strawberry Growers Association and the University of Florida doing agricultural research. The area where PARC's facility is located and its properties are is considered primary or premier agricultural land. It has Class 1 soils and high-quality water resources. The area has a high elevation, relatively high for Florida, of 75 feet and is well drained. It's expected to remain in productive agriculture region well into the future despite climate change impacts. It's in the public interest to preserve agricultural resources in this area. PARC's concerns are that the encroaching residential uses will eventually result in a situation where complaints are made about its intensive agricultural operations. These concerns are not speculative because PARC was confronted in the past by a former neighbor who complained about dust from its farm tractors. In addition, it's aware that a similar research station near Orlando was actually forced to shut down because of encroaching residential uses, converting agricultural land to residential uses. So its operations also require the use of soil fumigant management plans and pesticide setbacks from occupied structures and roads and sidewalks. And in conclusion, the encroachment of residential uses would increase those setbacks and encroach on PARC's use of its own land. So for those reasons, the PARC encourages the Planning Commission to find these requests inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on any of these three items? Would the applicant like to respond?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, guess there is somebody.
I'm Steve and Kathy Coleman. We live at 2906 North Kingsway Road. We live directly, I don't have the map. Our property is right next to the 19-03. So we look out our back door. Our house is the white house with a metal roof looking straight at it. So our concerns are, you know, the quality of our life will change, of course, the dirt, the dust, the noise, the roads, you know, the roads are not big enough to take care of all this property. They were saying they'd pay for them, whatever. And, yeah, come on in. And Kingsway, Thenoda, Sassa, and Pruitt, McIntosh, and 579, all those roads just can't handle all this traffic. Something has to be done. Okay, so this is our concerns. You know, we've already had a sinkhole on Taylor. They had to fill it with concrete the other day. Y'all, anybody know about that? No, haven't seen that. Borrow pits is another thing we're concerned about. You know, we don't want them out there digging a bunch of more dirt out. They've dug enough at Thenoda, Sassa. Our home values and all of that. So we're concerned about it. We want to know what's going on. And like I say, we just are concerned about what's going to happen in the area. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Joseph Tyree. I live at 2932 North Kingsway Road, Thenoda, Sassa, Florida 33592. I put up this map here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I live right there. And my wife and I actually just recently moved out there about a year ago. And we lived in a 1-acre community before. We moved out to Thenoda, Sassa to get away from that. We wanted land, we wanted privacy. Behind our house, beautiful rolling hills. I mean, I just don't want to look behind my house and see all these houses that are being built. Unfortunately, if this is something that is going to be approved, then we're probably going to have to move somewhere else because that's something we definitely don't want. And we just, you know, built this beautiful dream home of ours to raise a family and have kids and stuff. I know it's mentioned before, schools. I know the school district already said there's not enough capacity. The roads, like the gentleman was speaking before, said our roads are really small. You know, we just don't need that traffic in our area. I mean, that's really all we're out here, you know, fighting for our land. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You can leave it for me, too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Troop. My address is 11516 Saddle Up Road. They're wanting to develop right on my fence. I have horses, I have an arena, I have a barn, I have a house on stilts where I see out across everything. If there's a fire, I'm the one that calls everybody because I watch. Okay, if they develop all that, I know what'll happen. It'll be like Carrollwood. They'll just move in on top of us. Next thing you know, they'll be complaining about the horses and the birds and the chickens and all that stuff, and we'll be forced to move. We've got a hayfield. I can look out, and I'm also worried my house is on stilts. When they start doing all this developing and the ground shifts, what's going to happen? Is my house going to crumble? There's sinkholes. There's sinkholes all around us. Nobody knows about it. I know about it. I see it. That ground's going to shift. And I don't want to have all the pits that they've been digging. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Karen Mahalski, 7903 West Whitewater Court, Tampa 33637. As other residents have made comments and the staff has done a great job, this is inconsistent. And the reason why it's inconsistent is there's not a need for this yet. There's not a need to go 1 per acre, and it really won't be 1 per acre. By the time you take the stormwater, by the time you build everything, it's not going to be. It really is going to be less. And if you look at the timeliness of growth, last year the U.S. Census stated Hillsborough County had just a minimal 2,000 people coming in. It's being reduced. Maybe it's being reduced because of congestion. Maybe it's being reduced because we're losing our commercial centers. We're losing our employment centers. So maybe those are reasons. The other thing is if you look at the Thonotassa Community Plan, goal number 3 is rural character, open space, and agriculture. This goal includes encouragement for agriculture, protection of property owners' rights and values. That's exactly what the previous 2 residents have spoken of. They're directly going to be affected. And this comprehensive plan, which is our policy, should be protecting them. It should be protecting the regular, one property owner who owns maybe 10 acres, 5 acres, or 1 acre, as well as the Hillsborough County taxpayers, and then to help the developer find maybe better options, or say it's not ready now, maybe later it is. That's what the projected term is. The projected growth isn't for now, but maybe it is in 5 years, maybe it is in 10 years, as the developer stated. The USA service area is going to be expanding, but it's not now. We don't need it now, but maybe later. So it's not a no now, and maybe a yes later, so that we can protect the rural character, we can protect this area, as well as this is a major discharge area. Why is agriculture important for discharge area? It's so that the ground can soak this up, so that we can absorb and help our aquifer and recharge it. Everyone gets the emails, everyone sees it in their water bill, that we need to conserve water. If we have pavement over our discharge areas, we're not going to be able to absorb it. We're not going to be able to take it. We have the huge park. Hillsborough Park is right near Thonotassa, and it is a beacon for the animals, for the area to maintain rural, as well as for the maintaining of the wildlife area. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on any of these 3, 1903, 1904, and 1905? Okay, would the applicant like to respond?
Just briefly, and I'll go in order of a rebuttal, so to speak. As the first speaker, I will very gently say that the issues of an existing use that may affect other uses really shouldn't be considered. If there's a nuisance issue, that's not a planning commission issue, that's not a development services issue. As the infrastructure regarding roads and schools, again, that's a site development issue. If the roads are substandard, they must be brought up to par, no matter what the density or the proposed development is, and that's at the sole cost and expense of the developer. If the schools are already overpopulated, that's a matter of concurrency, which is a matter for, that happens at preliminary plating. And that's solved by a prop share agreement or the like, a contribution of land. But again, it shouldn't bear weight on today's decision. The same with sinkholes and engineering. We can't move forward with a plan that compromises the dirt, so to speak. That doesn't work. It's not legal. It won't pass muster at site review. This is a big picture thing, and I think it's important to focus on that. The little things will get sorted out, and will get sorted out correctly. And with that, myself or the principals are welcome to entertain any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take questions from commissioners. Any questions? Commissioner Willman?
Just a question about the roadway improvements, and I don't know if Matt Lewis is still here or staff, but what would the requirement be for the applicant to improve roadways that are not directly adjacent to the site being developed? He's coming up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Matt Lewis again with Community and Infrastructure Planning. The section cited in the report we submitted to the Planning Commission, it's on page 8 of 14 of the Hillsborough County report. That's in your Appendix C. Refers to section 60403L, which basically says that when a road is substandard, unless there's absolutely no way it can happen, an applicant has to improve that road to county standards. In this case, a rural two-lane collector would be a 96-foot right-of-way with sidewalks, open drainage, and a 5-foot paved shoulder for bicycle lanes.
Just a follow-up to that. But is that only for the roads directly adjacent or served by the project as opposed to area-wide?
Typically, it would be you have to improve that road to the nearest conforming road. So it'd be quite a distance they would have to approve. And just for the record, Development Services didn't talk about this as an objection, more as a concern. It's not physically impossible for them to improve that road. It's just a lot more of a production than if it was just in front of their property.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was stated earlier that there was a parcel not too far from here that was before this board a few years ago that either did get rezoned, and since I obviously wasn't here at that point, did they at that time do a map amendment?
The one that was, I believe it was west of 579? Is that the one you pointed out before?
Yeah, it was Joe Eaton 579.
Yeah.
North of that intersection.
Right. So that is, if you're looking at the map that's still on our screen, 579 is on the western side of it. And so it was, yes, they did have to do a map amendment, if I remember correctly.
I think it was AE to R1.
Yeah, they were already at the 1 to 2.5 acre land use category. They went up to the 1 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Marino?
This is, I guess, for the applicant. Is the intention to develop the parcels individually? Is that why it's 3?
Well, the purpose for coming in with 3 was actually, it has nothing to do with planning purposes. There was different contractual obligations underneath, different landowners, so we came in with 3. We don't have a concrete phasing plan yet. They're obviously not contiguous, so they wouldn't come in under one master plan. They came in for, I won't say financial purposes, but the purposes that there's different underlying interests of ownership, different underlying contractual interests.
And I believe you mentioned this earlier, so I just want to clarify. would there be a public water and sewer hookup?
Legally, there could not be at this point. No,
So
we're
it would
more than
be-
open to the idea, but
so,
no.
So it would be on well and septic.
Correct. That's the only option available in the rural service area.
And then, I guess the last thing I want to add, and this is more just a comment, but if you have a rebuttal, please do so. If I'm not mistaken, the 3 parcels, because I guess is that Kingsway right in the middle, splits the elementary school districts. If you were to add, I hope my math is right, if you were to add all the elementary school students in the in those 3 parcels, or projected, I believe it's 86 students. If you were to put all those in the McDonald Elementary School District, you'd be 10 short of capacity. So if this is to be developed all as one unit, obviously you wouldn't necessarily want, I mean, I guess you could, I mean, there are school districts that divide neighborhoods like that, but it isn't just now Strawberry Crest that's an issue, it's also the elementary school. Now, Bailey Elementary School, which is the opposite side of the road, would not have that issue for elementary capacity. It's a much larger elementary school.
Well, to that point, I believe, and perhaps Amber can speak to this, when the school board looks at capacity, they look at not just the district that the project is in, but also contiguous districts. Of course, we'd like to see all this project, funneled towards one elementary school. And in fact, to that point, in meetings with commissioners before we really got started with there's a lot of dirt involved in this project. And if the idea of, a donation for a school site or something to that effect makes it more palatable, that's absolutely something my clients would entertain, again, at the rezoning phase, but it's something that I can't put on paper for you today. But I mean, we're highly aware of that, that problem, and then again, that's something that would have to be dealt with down the line in the form of a contribution, a land donation, et cetera.
Any other questions?
I'll just support that comment. So we do tap into the adjacencies whenever we review concurrency.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. Any further questions? Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Woolman? Oh, actually, let me clarify real quick. We are going to do, we're going to handle 1903, 1904, and 1905 separate. So please make your motion for 1903 to start with. We'll go through that, vote on that, and then we'll go to 1904. That'll make it cleaner and easier to do.
Okay. I move that we find the proposed land use designation change for Hillsborough County Plan Amendment 1903 from AR 15 to Res 1 inconsistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan, and forward this recommendation to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Willman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Marina. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? So we have 8 in favor and Commissioner Powell opposed. So the motion passes. Okay?
Are you going for 1904?
Yeah, 1904 is the next one. Any, Commissioner Will?
Sure. I move that we find the proposed land use designation change for Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment HCCPA 1904 inconsistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan, and forward this recommendation to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Willman. Do we have a second? Commissioner Wild seconded. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, 8 in favor and Commissioner Powell is opposed. Motion passes 8-1. Next up is 1905.
Would you like me to make a motion?
Yes. if you would.
I move that we find the proposed land use designation change for Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment, HCCPA 1905, inconsistent with the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan, and forward this recommendation to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, and a motion by Commissioner Willman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Joseph. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Commissioner Powell is opposed. The motion passes 8-1 with Commissioner Powell opposed. Thank you. We are going to move on to Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-07.
quicker than I thought it would be, honestly. Your last meeting kind of wrong. I know. It's huge. It's so much that, yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. Unica Mills Planning Commission staff. The next amendment for your review is HCCPA 1907, Tavallo Hills Neighborhood. This is a privately initiated plan amendment that's being brought forth by a group of homeowners. The site is located within the urban service area, also located within the Garden Estates of the Brandon Community Planning Area. There are a total of 49 sites totaling approximately 55 acres. And the request before you this evening is to change the future land use designation from residential 4 to residential 2, which would be a down plan. The site is located within the eastern portion of Hillsborough County. The area is predominantly single-family residential with a mixture of lot sizes ranging from less than 1/4 of an acre to over 4 acres. Centrally located to the site is Shimino Elementary School. And there are commercial uses once you get along Lithia Pinecrest Road here to the northeast. Here is a more zoomed out aerial of the site. This gives you some context as to the proximity of the site to the urban service area boundary. Here's just a photo of the typical lot sizes within the Tavallo Hills neighborhood. This lot size is a 0.9 acre site, and this is the largest site within this plan amendment request, which is at 4 acres. The immediate area of the site has some unique characteristics that may give you some more context as to the request for the future land use designation change. The Tavallo Hills neighborhood was platted in the 70s. East of the subdivision is designated as residential 2. The western portion of the subdivision is designated as residential 4. After researching this matter, it was discovered that the split is due to follows a section township range line. The subdivision has been in the state since the inception of the comprehensive plan. Due to the site also being platted in the 70s, the site is not served by water and sewer. The homes are on private well and septic. The current zoning designation for the proposed site is agricultural single-family 1, which is below minimum density. If the parcels were to ever come in and subdivide, it would not create any nonconformities. Currently, the site is designated as residential 4. Again, the request before you this evening is to change the future land use designation to residential 2. Current future land use designations in the area include residential 4. We have natural preservation to the south, residential 2 to the east, residential plan 2 south of the sites. From this map, again, you can see the distinct separation between the residential 4 and the residential 2. Again, that follows the section township range line. And due to the transportation network and the non-connectivity between the proposed site and the residential 4 to the west, the proposed land use change would relate more to the residential 2, which is to the east of the site, as well as provide a transition to the rural area to the east. The proposed future land use designation change is consistent with the following goals, objectives, and policies. Again, though the site is located within the urban service area, which states that parcels are to be at a density of 4 units per acre or greater, Policy 1.2 of the future land use element contemplates lower densities where existing development pattern does not support those densities. Policy 2.1 of the future land use element speaks to the timeliness of growth in the urban service area and states that a project is premature if there's a lack of services such as transportation to support the development. And from the agency comments that were received from Development Services Transportation staff, currently Lithia Pinecrest is at a level of service D. Policy 16.8 states that density should reflect the overall character of the area. The residential 2 future land use designation is considered a suburban land use. There's language within the community design component of the future land use element which describes suburban development as being a transition between urban and rural, and that suburban development can be very similar to either rural or suburban development. Last but not least, the site is located within the Brandon Community Plan, specifically, again, within the Garden Estates District of the Brandon Community Plan. And Goal 3 of that plan states that historic patterns of development of established neighborhoods should be protected. Currently, the site could develop up to 223 units. If the site were to approve, the dwelling units would decrease down to 111 that could possibly be developed. Neither residential 4 or the residential 2 would permit non-residential uses because the site does not meet locational criteria. There were no agency concerns raised from any of the reviewing agencies, and based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Actually, sorry. Would the applicant like to speak on this?
My name is Margaret Jamsky. Sign my emails as Susie. I live at 4406 Loma Vista Drive in Valrico, 33596. I did not bring an attorney, but I brought my IT guy, Rich. I don't know yet what should be here. I'm just make sure I know how I'm moving this thing. My friend calls me tech-tarded. It's very obvious. Okay.
So how do we get that on here?
Yeah, I don't know. How does this, oh, it's on your screen? Okay. 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 So we know all of you guys are very well versed in what we're going to present, so we really don't want to in any way undermine this comprehensive plan. Obviously, after listening to the other applicants, I feel a little unprepared, but we'll do our best, okay? We just want to shed some light on what we think may have been an oversight during the development of stages in our area. And of course, we're going to hope that you guys are in agreement with us. We want to begin with why we applied to amend that comp plan. How do I move this thing? Can I do that? Oh, good. Okay. A nearby neighbor put her 26-acre parcel, which is located in the upper right corner of this little circle, put it up for sale several years ago. And because many of us knew her and well acquainted with her and knew she was going to sell, she was a widow, that we asked who the buyer might be and what their plans were. So at that time, she told us, oh, they're going to put half-acre parcels out there and make a new neighborhood. So we thought that was fair. You know, we're all 1-acre lots where we are, but we realize there's growth all around us, as you can well see. And we were fine with that whole plan. We never really even disputed it. However, once the groundbreaking started, we realized there were not half-acre parcels at all. And when we saw more houses come into that parcel, that's when we got more involved in what the FLU and USA were, which before that we really had little idea. So again, we realize there's a lot of work that goes into this. Trust us, we've learned the last year and a half, 2 years. So then we decided that we should probably do something about what our situation was. And I hate to use this word again because I heard it the other 2 times, that we felt we had a unique situation, but I couldn't think of a more unique word, so we're stuck with that one, okay? So that's when we filed our plan. You see these 2 pictures up there, okay? It shows very clearly, like Ms. Mills pointed out, that our neighborhood, Tavallo Hills, is divided in half. And we kind of thought that we better call the county and say, are you guys aware that that bright yellow parcel is part of our neighborhood connected to the lighter yellow parcel? And because we're all in the same neighborhood, shouldn't it be homogeneous? So they kind of looked at it and said, well, that is kind of odd because we have been there since the 70s, before these plans were enacted. But like Ms. Mills said, probably just because the grid lines were inadvertently drawn, and that's where it ended up. That's when we discovered we may be a forgotten neighborhood, which was a term we learned from the library downtown. So we looked into all the neighborhoods around us, and this is what we found. We're Tavallo Hills, 1971 is when we started. Bloomingdale East, right to the north of us, 1988, which is an addition to, from what we understood, Bloomingdale region. I guess that's the right word because it's so huge. That had been started in the late 60s, early 70s. Mason Oaks, which is a piece of property, I'll show you the next map, that actually is half-acre parcels or close to it, and it provides more of a transition. And then River Ridge, which are smaller parcels, and lastly, Shetland Ridge, which is the 26-acre parcel that our friend sold. So as you can see on this map, the yellow outline is Tavallo Hills. We are all 1-acre lots. I think to the east of that, where Chimino School is, those are the parcels that we would like to downplan to an R2. And when Ms. Mills stated the 1/4-acre lots, those 1/4-acre lots are actually county property. So I think from what we understand, as the plat was coming on out our way, there were some discrepancies and some markers were off. So after that happened a couple inches all along the way from the very beginning of Bloomingdale, it kind of ended up just off kilter. So that's why those little spots are there. The rest of us are 1 acre, some people 2.5, and some 5. So when we decided that those other neighborhoods really didn't show any transition, except for, you can see in the very top middle, Mason Oaks, those are larger lots. That's the transition we felt was appropriate. But as you can see, the other lots, the Bloomingdale East is, I think it's an RS6. The one to the very south of us, the RS6 among 9, that was not inconsistent with the plan to help that transition from urban, suburban, and to rural. So we got some maps and started looking at some of the things that we thought were important for y'all to know. So I know you guys know these abbreviations. I'm not going to repeat them to you. You probably have heard them enough, okay? But I'll paraphrase. And what we found about the future land use in unincorporated Hillsborough County was that it was an element of comprehensive plan to guide the future growth and development. It was originally established in 1988, which is 17 years after our neighborhood was built. And one of the most important features was keeping the choice of living urban, suburban, or rural. Also, with the support of the urban service area boundaries established in 93, which was 22 years after our neighborhood was established, the freedom for the residents to choose that variety of settings is what we understood that USA was enacted for. Again, rural, suburban, or urban. Many of us have lived there prior to those boundaries that were in place. We didn't have garbage pickup. If we did call for electrical, it was probably a day or two for someone got out there, but it wasn't that big of an issue to most of us. Some of our long-term residents are here tonight. So here's why we want to be homogeneous in this neighborhood and fall under that R2 designator throughout our neighborhood. Husband? We have a large parcel map that we wanted to show to help you see this. Okay, so here's our neighborhood, right here, whole area. This half is R2 for future land use, and this half R4. So when Shetland Ridge up here started clustering their homes, we started getting a little nervous because, as you can see, there are large parcels of land that border us that will probably eventually be sold. these people have been long-term, and I know for a fact this woman is a widow, and she is trying to get out of there. So that's what made us think we should probably do something to help maintain the character of our 1 acre lots. Stay right there, okay? We've already accommodated an influx of traffic from Chimino Elementary School here. Parents and daycare center buses use this entranceway right here out to the Pinecrest.
Can you turn the map a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
They use the entrance, which was supposed to be a maintenance-only entrance back when the school was built, to drop off and pick up their children. That has caused a major safety issue in our neighborhood. We are a horseback riding community, and many of the people we have here have horses, and it's almost impossible anymore during the school year, early in the morning or in the afternoon, to ever even try to ride along those streets, let alone walk or anything else. So we kind of feel like we've given up part of our rights as an agricultural area, but we really haven't complained too much. I don't think any of you guys have ever heard us. I've called the school and asked to slow the traffic, but that really hasn't been what they're agreeing to. So anyway, we're hoping that if you will grant our down plan, it would stop these future probably developed areas. Those children will be zoned for that school, as this one possibly could. Now, incidentally, our neighborhood children are not zoned for this school. So you can imagine our frustration that our kids can't even walk to school, and we have to deal with all the drivers that are coming in and out. So it's not a good thing. We've even had people try to get special assignment, and it's been turned down. So I'm not sure the deal is there. Thank you, husband. That was great. Appreciate that. Now, according to the Brandon Community Plan on Goal 6, which is incorporated to the Hillsborough Comp Plan, the attempt to buffer and transition uses in concentric circles where possible did not appear to include our already long-established existing development. We tried every way we could to do a concentric circle from the middle of Brandon, and it just didn't happen. We were cut off still, squared off. So we are in the Garden Estates, as Ms. Mills told you, and the boundary of the Brandon Community Plan, which calls for parcels of land to be at least a ½ acre in size. If you approve our request, that will also coincide with the future FLU rating R2. And according to the Hillsborough Comp Plan, we are a rural residential area, long before the USA ever came out there. We're an established neighborhood. We're an existing development, and we're zoned AS1 agricultural. I won't read all those definitions because I'm sure you guys know them. And then what we did was we got a couple pictures from way back in the day to show how the development of this area has just slowly kind of encroached around our little place. And even now, if any of you have ever come out there, you really don't even know that we're there. You've got to make that hairpin turn or you fly right by us. So even today, it's kind of still a hidden little paradise. And we could turn you on to some people who are selling property if you're interested. So anyway, so these are development pictures through the ages. Here on the left, 1966, as you can see, it's orange groves and dairy farm. And the next one is 1973, which was our completely platted neighborhood. Then 79, you can see still dairy farm to our west, orange groves in throughout Developed Hills that hadn't even really been totally bought out yet. I had to clean like 30 orange trees off my lot, so I definitely has. This is 1985, still pretty rural and agricultural. This is the Alafai River here to the south. And still just a nice, quiet, serene, rural neighborhood. No noise, no nothing, no traffic. 1988, you can see a little bit of development here to the east side coming off of Bloomingdale. 91 is when the neighborhood to the north of us was developed. And that's where we felt was, had we known about then what we know now, probably would have been complaining because there's definitely no transition there for us. And some of our landowners literally have two-story homes looking down into their acre. And here in 1997, you can see the more growth. Finally, the year 2000, and we are just completely engulfed. I mean, it just doesn't even seem like everyone paid any attention to us being there. And then finally, this is taken in 2017, and you can see to our south, again, no transition whatsoever in that corner. to the northeast and the northwest sides. It's just no transition that the Brandon Community Plan and the comp plan supposedly was going to protect us, okay? So we're asking you guys just to please help keep what was once a rural residential land as it was established and allow those of us that have chosen that lifestyle to maintain it without the worry of losing it. And my own personal grievance is when Shamina was built, we live right at the corner of it, kind of, in a little way. And we used to have horses. Stalls were up to the back of the property. And we eventually had to get rid of them because of the playground that was placed right in the corner adjacent to our property. And as much as I love those little darlings out there, they are loud, screechy, high-pitched, just active little people. And they would throw things at the horses, and we'd eventually just decide, because of our love for our animals, that we would get rid of them and let them go back to a more serene and quiet environment they're used to. So that's my personal grievance. We also have here others that may like to speak. So if we could bring, is that the time to do that, or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I open it up for public comment, I'm gonna have, I've got a list, I'll go down the list. So,
okay.
Commissioner Willman, you gotta, okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna allow each person 3 minutes, and they'll be keeping the time. Please state your name and address. I'll go down the list and just, because that might make it easier since there's a number of you who want to speak.
Okay.
So, are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay. Tammy Morningstar? And after Tammy, I have Ken Morningstar, so. And Michael Stone, those three.
Tammy Morningstar, located at 2803
I'm
Hideaway
sorry.
Lane in Valrico. I just wanted to say that I am in support of this. We do have horses, chickens, you name it, and our concern is keeping it that way for our neighbors and us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I just noticed that you guys checked no, you didn't want to speak, so you don't have to come up unless you want to. I don't want to pressure you to walk up here.
I'm Ken Morningstar, 2803 Hideaway Lane. We are currently in the R2 designation, not part of what this is tonight, but you have to go past our property to go to this area. We are getting ready to build a nice big house on our property. It's our dream house. We bought into the neighborhood because we like the characteristic of the neighborhood. To change the character of the neighborhood would make me want to just scrap my plans altogether and find a new place to go. So we're asking if you would go ahead and make this R2 happen so that we have some peace of mind going forward and knowing what our neighborhood is going to be like going into the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tom Larson, Tom or Mary Larson.
Tom Larson and I live at 2714 Hideaway Lane, Valrico 33596. My property actually backs up to the rear entrance, the maintenance entrance of Semino Elementary, and we have a line of cars consistently at pickup times and drop-off times. It does create a problem for people walking in the area trying to ride their bikes. It's just impossible. What we are trying to do is prevent urban sprawl from dividing our neighborhood through the current future land use, with half of us being R4 and half R2. We're trying to create a continuity and fix a problem and protect our rural community. We just appreciate, I agree with Susie, and just appreciate any consideration that you could give us in this.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Hannah Morford, and I am the current owner of 4203 Tavallo Drive in Valrico, Florida. That's my grandmother's property, and it's just on the outside of where we want to change. I think that the whole area reflects each other's property. They're all the same. They all have acreage. They all have space. I think we should keep it that way. I would also like to read a note that another neighbor sent in, the Simmons family. They said, good evening, members of the board. We are new residents to the neighborhood of Tavallo Hills. Tavallo Hills exudes a serene country atmosphere. It's close enough to amenities, yet also is far enough away in a rural setting. Once you begin your drive up Adelaide Avenue, you know you have found something special. We have had several people comment on how nice of a neighborhood we live in and wish there were more like it. It's so peaceful. The modest homes sit comfortably on acre lots. We understand that the neighborhood's future land use is divided. I am here before you asking that you amend the FLU so that all properties within the Tavallo Hills neighborhood be R2, preserving the land and the rural setting and give continuity to all here in this very unique, beautiful neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Karen Mahalski, 7903 West Whitewater Court. I'm an activist. You know, I want to protect our rural areas. I want to protect our policy, our comprehensive plan, and I want to support residents who want to defend their area and their property rights. So that's why I'm here. So this community decided to take matters in their own hands because unfortunately they consider poor decisions influence their property rights. And now they have decided to go through the process and fight to maintain their property rights. And their property rights are maintaining their community. And in the comprehensive plan, there is neighborhood protection. So they want to take the rights which is given by our comprehensive plan and really define it. Typically, we wouldn't go a Res 4 to a Res 2 because we want to promote infill. But this is a community. It's not rural. It's not open space. It's not trying to expand our urban service area. It is a neighborhood that they want to contain themselves with a variety of open spaces. Someone who has 4 acres wants to maintain that. Someone who has 1 acre wants to maintain it. And they don't want to have to fight for, you know, a large neighborhood being developed by them. And they want to try to take back control and preserve their property rights and their little piece of quiet when they go home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Willis, 4505 Loma Vista Drive. Just my 2 cents in all of this. We purchased our property in 2003. At the time, my daughter was 2 years old. She is now 17, with the hopes and dreams that we would have horses and cattle and all of those fun farm things that every kid dreams of, and we have that. We're very blessed to have all of that. So with the change, possibly of the R2, R4 staying, that could very much change our way of living and the reason why we bought out there and the reason why we decided to stay and to raise our children. If you are a part of our Tavallo Hills neighborhood, would you raise your hand just to show the support? And many of the residents here raised their children, their grandchildren. We're not a community of transients, I should say. People don't come and stay a couple years and out. I mean, we have people that this is our neighborhood, this is our community, this is what excuse me, this is what we love. When the river floods, we all band together. When, you know, things happen in the neighborhood, everybody bands together. So it is truly a community, and that's what we would like, just to keep the integrity of our community is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's south, it's off.
Originally, I wasn't going to speak. I'm Ann Eberwine. I live at 4411 Loma Vista Drive. I'm part of the group that wants to go to the new Res 2. My daughter just spoke. She's on the other side. If you go up that curb on Adelaide, the second house on the left is my daughter's new house. And I live down the street. And when my mother bought that land, this gentleman lives across the street. My daughter used to get taken care of by my mother, and we would go across the street and feed horses. Now that section is quarter-acre houses. It's houses everywhere. There are no more horses. This entire neighborhood only has 1 road in, 1 road out. You can't ignore that it's all acres. It's not like as if you can take half of it and put townhouses, because if you put townhouses, you're going to have 1 million cars going in front of my daughter's house. The goal of us buying there was so that in the future, when my daughter has children, they visit grandma, just like my daughter did. So please help us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? No other public comment? With the applicant, yeah, you can respond.
I just wanted to say that we didn't really feel as a group any wrong decisions were made. We just felt it was just an oversight because our neighborhood is way out in Southeast County. I mean, you can drive 2 minutes and you're in Polk County. It's close. So please understand that we realize this is a difficult situation as we have worked on this for the last several years, and many of y'all saw me in and out of here. I have learned a lot. So I know that it's just one of the situations we felt was just kind of overlooked, and we just want to kind of make it right before any of those vacant parcels around us go up for sale, because I'm sure with all the people moving in, they eventually will. So, thank you.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Dix?
Just one from Ms. Mills, our staff. I think I know the answer to this, so it's just real simple. I just want it on the record. This is for 49 lots, and all 49 have affirmatively said they want to be included in this application.
Yes, that is correct.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dowdy? Oh, wait, Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Mr. Dix's point, it looked like to me on the map that there was some lots that in the neighborhood that were not a part of the rezoning, and I just wanted to find out if, just I guess double check, 'cause it looked like I don't know if you could go back to one of the previous maps from earlier. It just didn't seem like all of them were necessarily like in there, and I just.
You are absolutely correct. There are parcels that are left out. As you see from the map that I just put on the Elmo, where the red arrows are pointing, those are lots that are not a part of the request before you this evening.
So therefore, all the lots in the neighborhood are not a part of this. So that was Commissioner Dix's question a second ago.
Can I explain something real quick? This here. This piece here and this piece here are the ones we spoke about earlier that were just county lots, or like little corners that were just kind of left. Couldn't put even doghouse on them. So those, I don't really think we count those, right? Because there's nothing can live there. These two here, these two gentlemen, we have spoke to them. They're new to the neighborhood and are under the impression that if they stay R4, they will be allowed to sell their piece of property to a developer and, in their words, retire in the lap of luxury, because their trailer's out of there and 4 big homes will go in. We've explained to them that's highly unlikely, because we would have to get agreement with everyone on that street, if we understand the plan correctly, to agree to put 4 acres or 4 homes on that acre. So those two men, they knew we were coming here tonight. They didn't really, we offered to bring him in so they could speak their opposition. They didn't really say anything one or the other. This gentleman here is in the process of buying his piece of property, and he's afraid that if he signs, if the owner signs it, who's his brother-in-law, that it will decrease the value of his property and his brother-in-law won't get what he was asking. So they said they wanted to stay out of it. And the other two, they just don't care one way or the other. So that's hearsay, of course, but that's what they told us.
So to clarify, that parcels that are outlined in black, those are the 49 parcels that are a part of this amendment and have agreed to the residential 2.
Thank you.
Yes, we did perform a school concurrency review that wasn't provided in your packet, which I would like to provide right now, and that's for the maximum allowable density.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Dowdy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we find the proposed land use designation change for Hillsborough County Plan Amendment HC CPA 1907 from residential 4 to residential 2 on the 55.92 acres, more or less, consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and forward it to the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Dowdy, a second by Commissioner Joseph. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you.
You're real excited. Is that a nice last one for you? Yeah. Yeah. I knew they were, yeah, they've been very, yeah, they are. I know, I know. Thank you.
Have a good night, thank you.
It was interesting. That was the most highly debated one with staff. Like, 'cause, this last one, because it was in the, some people, I mean, just. It was in the urban service area. It's in the urban service area. They just felt like it was hard to. Right. That's what I said. I said it can't subdivide. It doesn't have water and sewer. If they were even to subdivide the smallest, they could give us. Oh, you got it. Oh, you got it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We're adjourned. I got so excited.
Oh gosh. Yeah, they need to turn us off on HTV.